Hello there, guys, and welcome back to my channel. And welcome back to another Premier League preview ahead of Bournemouth against Chelsea tomorrow night, Saturday, 8 o'clock. It's a late kickoff, but also finally we play on a Saturday. Only Sunday game so far this season, actually. Did we play City on a Saturday? I can't even remember anymore.
Oh, now, Sunday we played City.
See, exactly. I'm pretty sure all of our league games have been Sunday so far, obviously with the Thursdays, conference leagues and stuff. We are supposed to have Dharmesh here as well. For some reason, it wouldn't let me add him. This is the first stream we're doing via StreamYard here on 1080p. So I hope that isn't the reason I can't add Dharmesh, because now I can't change it anymore. So, maybe we'll be without Dharmesh, but I hope we can join and I can add him after that. But Charlie, first of all, thank you for being back on. I appreciate it. Thank you, everybody, tuning in. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to subscribe. Hit that like button whether you're watching this live or later on once it has turned into a video. But yeah, Charlie, finally the end of a, well, in the beginning, extremely eventful international break, only to turn into real nothingness. And I'm just glad that we're back playing football. On the one hand, so we can distract ourselves from the board level drama, but hopefully we actually make ourselves feel better by watching us play and not make it worse. That wouldn't be fun, would it? But Charlie, just quickly, let's talk about this, because I feel like this will probably be looming over our heads for a little while longer. But let's just get it out of the way before we can actually focus on the football. The ownership drama at Chelsea. Whether we want to call it a civil war or not, each to their own.
Civil, is it?
No, it's a very fair point. Yeah, fair point. But yeah, between Clearlake and Benedict Barley, of course, Jose Feliciano as well, and Todd Bowley. Where do you stand on the situation? I put in the tweet, update on the ownership drama. Honestly, the update is there isn't much of an update. The only update that we have is that neither party want to sell. Both parties want to buy out the other party. But so far, no bid has happened. And at the end of the day, we're just kind of waiting. But yeah, Charlie, where do you stand on it? Do you think this is a real problem for the club? Do you think it will affect us on the pitch? Do you think, and also the last question on that, how long do you think this will take to resolve?
I mean, look, is it a massive, massive problem? You could have bigger ones. It's not ideal. What I would say is, though, it's not, for me, it wasn't a complete surprise, because I think it had been quite obvious for a while now that obviously the kind of relationship between Bowley and Barley wasn't that great. I think what the real surprise was at the extent at how bad it had gotten. I didn't really think it had got that bad. I knew it wasn't potentially great, but I didn't think it was going to be as bad as it was, that they had to kind of, the only option's really going to be one buying, the other one out. So that it's not ideal from that point. In terms of the distraction on the pitch, I don't think so. But, the quickest way you can silence that is by picking up the results and by winning matches. If we lose games, that's just going to be chucked at us constantly. If we put a little run together, win some games and that, this won't really be spoken about because we're doing our job on the pitch. Whereas if you start losing, it's going to be blamed for causing issues on the pitch and stuff. But in terms of how long it's going to take, I've got no idea, mate. That report in the Athletic saying sources close to Bowley's side were thinking the picture might be clear in a couple of months. I'd be surprised if we knew anything before Christmas, mate, if I'm being honest. This is not like, we're not talking about, I'll buy your shares for a tenner. We like little handshake and that, and off we go. We're talking billions of pounds here. That takes a long time to sort out. So yeah, I'm not expecting a swift conclusion, but if it's just simmering along in the background and it's not, all over the headlines, then I haven't got a huge issue with it. I'd rather this just be out there now. Everyone knows the situation and we're working towards dealing with it.
Fair dues. Before I get to Dharmesh, and I will do in a second, brilliant that it didn't work. That I was concerned that you wouldn't be able to join for whatever weird reason. But Charlie, do you have a preference about how this ends, or are you a bit kind of indifferent, I guess, to it, whether it ends up being all Clearlake or all Bowley, or if we kind of keep the status quo? The only problem that I have is I listened to London is Blue podcast with Matt Law, and I listened to what he had to say about it, and he was like, he can't imagine the differences between the ownership parties, groups, being salvageable. And that is a problem. If they're not salvageable, that is a problem. So do you have a preference about how it goes, or do you think it makes a big difference who kind of wins?
Firstly, I think in the short term, it probably doesn't make that much difference. But I think if you're looking more longer term, then I think it could make a significant difference. Because if it were to be Eghbali and Clearlake, we're going to have the majority of the club owned by a private equity firm, and that could potentially be, there could be some big changes in the future. If it's Bowley, I think we potentially be in safer hands, and I feel like he's more invested in the fans. I think he's more invested on actually, building a successful football team, rather than perhaps being financially driven with a good team, maybe just being a bonus on the side. So I would rather Bowley, because I think he's got more time for the fans. You hear him speak. I've sort of bumped into him. I've seen him a few times. He's always got time to, even if just a few words, he's always got time to speak to fans. I see Eghbali at most games arriving and leaving, and he isn't
ignoring everyone that talks to him.
He won't talk to anyone. But that's up to him, and that's fine. I don't expect you to stop and speak to everyone. But, it's just little things like that you notice. You think Bowley's got a bit more time for the fans. And also important for me is, yes, I know baseball is not football, but at least he's got some sort of experience working in as part of owning a sports team. I know he's a minority in the Dodgers as well, but at least he's got that sort of sporting background, which obviously Eghbali and Feliciano absolutely don't. And I like it, the fact that he seems to be, more hands-off in his approach, rather than someone like Eghbali who wants to be involved in every single decision and wants to micromanage everything and wants everything run past him. Bowley's happy to appoint whoever it is, let them do their job, and just report back or whatever every so often. So I think the points that come out from The Athletic, if you looked at the bullet point lists and you didn't know whose name was above each one, like, you would clearly choose Bowley's sort of principled points. Like, it's a no-brainer for me. But the big problem he's got is he only owns 13%. So unless Clearlake and Eghbali have a big change of heart, or the offer that Bowley makes them is too good to say no, as much as Bowley might want to stay at this football club and fans maybe would prefer him, he's got a big problem because he's only got 13%. And that's not something that's easy to buy out 61.5.
That is exactly the issue, isn't it? Like, the whole situation is just such a mess. And I mean, Bobby makes a fair point. Bowley does plan to hire, or I say would plan or would want to hire a CEO of football and then have a director of football below that, and then just leave those people doing their job. Isn't it crazy though how you mentioned it, Charlie, there with the Dodgers and baseball? Remember 2 years ago when they hired us and we were like, yeah, you might have baseball experience, but that's not football experience. And now things have gone so bad. We're like, oh, at least he has baseball experience. But 2 years ago, that was a bad point. All of a sudden, it started to a good point, which kind of shows you how mental the situation is. But let me finally come to you, Doms. First of all, thank you for being back on. It's been a hot minute, so I appreciate you being here. Just to make it clear to everybody. So myself and Charlie obviously do the whole content creation, and we're very much like try to read everything that we see and that we can. Damesh is certainly more clearly on the fan side of things. So there's sometimes maybe things that Dams isn't maybe as clued up on as myself and Charlie are. But I felt that might actually bring us a very good, slightly different angle to the stream. So Dams, first of all, like I say, again, thank you for joining us. And obviously we're here to first and foremost speak about Bournemouth against Chelsea tomorrow night. But like I said to Charlie, I just want to quickly run over the ownership struggles a little bit before we get into those other topics. So from your perspective, and again, you might not have read everything that there is out there to read, but where do you stand on the situation? Like, do you think this is a big calamity? Do you think it puts the whole ownership into disrepute, really? Do you think it will affect us on the pitch? Where do you stand on the situation? And I assume you're probably like most of us that would probably prefer Bowley, but maybe elaborate on that a little bit.
Yeah, big up Laurenz, big up Charlie, big up the chat as well. It's been a while, man. I think it's absolute calamity what's happening right now, given the ownership have only been here for what, a year and a half, 2 years, and there's already talks of all this stuff happening. And with some of the bits that I've read and some of the stuff that you guys have said and stuff, it's like it's all valid, to be fair, because with what Clearlake and Eghbali are doing right now, as Charlie mentioned before, you can't really translate that from baseball into football and the other club that they own as well. It's just not going to work. And you can see the angle that Clearlake and Eghbali have tried to do. It's just not it's not worked at all, and not sort of what we're used to as fans, where we would hire and fire managers, we would bring silverware to the club, and you could clearly see that with some of the recruitment that Bowley did at the start, or well reportedly did at the start with that window of Cucurella, Sterling, I believe it was, Koulibaly we signed as well. That he wanted to do everything himself, which obviously Bowley fucked up on. But obviously with Igbali and Clear Lake as well, they're just they've obviously brought in their own sort of people, Winstanley and Stewart, which obviously we would probably despise as fans, just because the amount of shit they've left us in at the moment. And for me, they're the biggest problem with the club, as well as Clear Lake and Igbali. So yeah, I'm very much like you guys. I'm Team Bowley, to be honest with you, just because of everything that I've sort of been fed into and read, and even with what Charlie said about the fact that he engages with the fans as well. Like, you want someone like that. We knew Roman Abramovich before would engage with the fans. He was a proper Chelsea fan. Like, as well as he owned the club, he loved the club as well. Not denying Bowley doesn't love the club, but you can tell that he does care. Whereas Igbali just, as I think me and Charlie saw him at the Palace game. Remember, he was wearing that black jacket. He was with
he's his gangster. Like, I tell you what, you wouldn't want to bump into him like on a night out anywhere in the street. Like, the guy's got a bit of an aura around him. Like, he gives off like, don't mess with this guy. You can see when they send him in, by the way, to get deals done. You can see why deals get done.
Yeah,
because
exactly,
you're shitting yourself when you're sat opposite the table from him. No doubt.
Except the Osimhen one, obviously. But yeah,
well,
that's the whole separate. That's the thing, though. Like, what the ideal world would be if Igbali had the idea of Bowley, because Bowley looks a bit like a clown. To be fair, now that he's lost quite a significant amount of weight, it does look a bit more serious, I feel like. But still, really, you'd want the ideas of Bowley in the personality of Igbali, because, like you just touched on, the aura, the kind of, I don't know, intimidation, if you want to call it that kind of Igbali kind of gives off, if you will. But yeah, I mean, The Athletic did a fan survey. Make of that what you will, of course. Not sure how many obviously took part, but supposedly of that fan survey, 73.4% have the most faith in Todd Bowley to lead the club. Yeah, it's a struggle. I don't want to, like, I've made it very clear, I would certainly prefer Todd Bowley than Igbali. I still don't really see that happening, to be honest. But the way Damesh said he cares. Now, I do think he cares certainly more than Igbali does. If he cares to even a remotely comparable extent to any of us, I very much doubt. The only thing you can say is Bowley has his own money in this. Igbali has the money of his company in this. Big difference. So, I think from that perspective as well, Bowley is a bit more reliant. Is definitely not the right word, but more. I feel like it's probably more likely to be more important to him that it works out. At the same time, that's why also, because it's his own money, if he gets a good offer that is more than he put in, as much as he might care, maybe he's in that sense easier to buy out, because obviously he's only 12.8% to buy out. Now, supposedly, the Bowley, Mark Walter, and Hans-Jörg Wyss, kind of those three that together own 38%, supposedly they're only like either one or none. Like, it's a case of either you buy all of them out or none of them out. Seems like it's not going to be a situation where you can only buy out Bowley and keep the other two around as kind of passive and silent investors. So who knows?
They are those other geezers don't do anything, do they? I mean, what does Vice do?
You don't hear about them at all, no.
Yeah.
Mate, honestly, if Vice is still alive, I think he's doing a good job.
Yeah.
I think leave him with that. He's got enough on his hands for staying alive.
I think the most important thing is, though, like, just on this, is that whoever it ends up being, and whatever the idea is, whatever route they're looking to go down or have chosen to go down, the most important thing is that we've got an ownership that are all on the same page. Regardless of whether you agree with the idea or not, you've got to have everyone pulling in the same direction. So, yeah, it'd be more preferable, to have Bowley probably, but we've got to have everyone pulling in the same direction from the top. Otherwise, nothing's ever going to work.
Exactly.
And also, as well, like, I was just going to say as well, like, I think the timing of this is just is bad as well. Like I said before, because we're a year and a half, 2 years into the ownership, and there's already talks. Well, obviously, it's clear to see that they don't get on. There's no direction. There's no sort of a coming together of both of them. And the fact that I feel sorry for Maresca. Like, the fact that he's been asked, I believe he's been asked questions about this as well. And it's like, who's like, well, like, why is he being put under the spotlight to answer these kind of questions when he's not the one who should be answering? He should be focused on the game. I'm not saying his fault or anything, but It's just I feel sorry for Maresca because he has to be sort of the front runner on all this when Bowley and Barley should really come out, to be honest with you, and sort the situation quickly. And obviously with the start of the season as well, we've obviously had a somewhat mixed start to the season. So and I think it'll affect the players on the pitch as well. To be honest with you, just due to the fact that we're still learning a new system, players are still coming back from injury, they're bedding in, and to hear that off-field nonsense that's going on at the moment is just I think it's gonna affect the team, to be honest with you, with some of the futures as well, because there might be players that Bowley signed and Igbali signed, and whoever it ends up being, I just think overall it will affect them, to be honest with you, going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to judge. I guess it depends on how long it drags out, how much of it is, dragged out and fought out publicly. Because like Maresca said in the press conference today, he doesn't have any control over that. So he doesn't bother himself with it because he's like, why shall I be concerned about it? Why shall I be thinking about it if there's nothing I could do? And he said he thinks and he hopes that the players are going to be acting the same way, which obviously would be a good thing. Just to quickly, and the last kind of word on that, I think, and it's been said multiple times, but I think the best and the most accurate quote or statement on the whole situation is, like Charlie kind of said, everyone needs to be pulling in the same direction. So how can the fans support an ownership that don't trust each other? And I think that is the best quote going around on the matter, and that it just needs to be resolved. And I just still think it's so utterly ridiculous that these people have bought something, a football club, for £4.25 billion and didn't beforehand talk about how they plan to run the thing. Like, that is just insane. How rich do you have to be to spend 4.25 billion and not talk and think about how you're going to actually run the shit? Like, it's utterly mind-blowing to me.
I think they've underestimated as well, like I said, how difficult running a English football club is. Well, not even that, like a Premier League level club. I think they underestimate. They're like, oh, okay, we can just money, no risk at all. We'll just get quite the best players out there on the market at the moment. The ones that look good, the ones that have done well in the past from data. We'll just roll with it. But no, it's a completely different ballgame. Like, you see all the successful teams in the past, even with us as well. Look at the setup we had. Look at the setup Man City have at the moment. Where in terms of like sport directors, technical directors, recruitment, and all that stuff, it's just it's the best. Well, really, we've got Joe Shields, and obviously we had Vivel who left, but and then there's probably a reason why he left. Like, there might be like a backstory why he left, as to why he left with the ownership being as it is at the moment. He might have been Team Bowley or Team Bali. We don't know. Well, we'll know, I think, eventually when this all gets resolved.
Yeah, we will. But let's see what exactly we do find out. It's so difficult to judge what's in the media now because the one report will be a brief from that side of the camp. The other report will be a brief from the other side of the camp. And it's almost impossible to always fully judge what's true and what isn't true. I just want to have a quick little touch on this, right? I'll bring it up now. Because it's been confirmed now that in our Conference League group stage, do we even call it still group stage? I'm not sure. League phase, is it? There you go. Yeah. Well, we're obviously drawn to play against Astana away, which is in Kazakhstan. The capital, Astana, is kind of in the middle of the country, but because that stadium is currently under redevelopment, we are now not playing in the capital. They don't have another stadium there. They're also not playing somewhere further west. They're also not playing like in a different country, like, for example, Shakhtar Donetsk did in the Champions League last season when they played in Hamburg. No. Astana are now playing in a place called Almaty, which supposedly is the biggest city of Kazakhstan. Who knew? But anyways, it's further east, it's further south, it's 220 miles from China, and essentially and exactly on the border with Kyrgyzstan. So yeah, and supposedly the MetLife Stadium in New York would be closer than playing there. So how on earth these lot are allowed in the European competition? Baffling. Go on, Charlie.
We should actually just forfeit it, take the 3-0 L, just save the travel.
Literally,
legitimately. I mean, fair play to any Chelsea fans that make that trip, because that is a mad trip.
Literally.
I mean, I think it's like what, like it's like nearly a 10-hour flight or something. It's mad.
Is there even a direct connection?
I haven't looked at it. I don't really know. It's crazy. It's honestly
So you're
crazy.
probably having to fly via like Istanbul or something, because the other connections are probably through Russia, and European airlines don't go to Russia. So it's like, you know what you're doing.
A Thursday night in December, and you know exactly what will happen. We'll lose 1-0.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
The average temperature is -3 degrees. You know, also with kickoff times, I'm sure it will be a 5 o'clock one. But even that, with time difference, over there will be like 10 p.m. You know how fucking cold it's going to be there, man? I'm baffled that this is even legal. I'm not going to dwell on it too long, but I am. This blows my mind. Like, sure, you have the same debate. Why is Israel part of UEFA? Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia. But bloody hell, I mean, with Israel, there's obviously political reasons. Should the UEFA play along with that? I don't think so.
I think we kicked off that night.
But what Kazakhstan have to do with Europe?
I actually think, I know what you're going to say, but I actually think it's like a 3:30 kickoff, this one.
That's what I was literally about to say. Yeah,
I was literally about to say that. It's probably too cold otherwise. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, so it'd be a 3:30 kickoff UK, which probably makes it
on a Thursday. Brilliant.
It'll be like a 6 o'clock or something. You know, 6 or 7 o'clock kickoff in. That could be a 7:30 kickoff, a 6:30 kickoff in
someone told me that they're on the same time zone as India, and India have a half-hour time zone. So maybe that's why it's 3:30 in the UK. God knows, mate.
Yeah, it's 3:30 kickoff UK. I'm pretty certain.
Yeah, exactly. Let's not get too hung up on it, but yeah, it just baffles me. But yeah, just make sure you bloody send all the kids. Like Crispy said here, that match has a 1-0 Disasi own goal written all over it. Honestly, even Disasi shouldn't have to travel to there. Like, what the flip? Do you know what I mean? The only first team players that should be going on that trip are bloody, well, Dewsbury Hall, because he's terrible. Karnichuk will make it because he needs minutes, and that's it. Everybody else just stay at home, really. I guess Jorgensen, because he's clearly not getting the minutes in the Prem. But yeah, enough of that. Let's get into talking about tomorrow's game. And I think, well, the biggest part of that is, in a way, the injuries. And obviously, we're nowhere near, you know, the kind of injury troubles that we were dealing with last year. Absolutely not, in terms of numbers. But we are struggling in certain positions. Lavia, still injured. Very close to returning. Maresca said he should be back. Hopefully, we'll be back for the next game, which would at least be something. Although the next game, we don't have a midweek game this week, so it would be next weekend. But Reece James, all he said on that, needs more time. And that's what frustrates me. What do you mean needs more time? How much time?
That translates to nowhere near returning, is basically what that
exactly. Means. Exactly that. Because I'm like, how long though? Like a month? 3 weeks?
He's not even back in training. Like this is the thing. This is the thing that annoys me, is that, like, you know, whenever this was, they come back from the States and we were told a couple of days before the Inter Milan friendly that he's had a bit of a setback. And I thought, you know what, it is what it is. Described it as minor. He's out for the first 3 games anyway. I sort of won't think too much of it. If he's not available for Bournemouth, then I'll have a bit more. My thoughts will be slightly different on the matter. Not only is he not available, he's not even in fucking training. This happened over a month ago. So you're telling me a minor setback, and a month later, this guy's not even in full training. Yeah. Well, what's happening here?
It's so concerning, man. It's so concerning. I mean, Dams, I'll bring you in on it as well. But what on top of that, do I see? Is it below? Well, I'll bring it up in a different tweet. Malo Gusto is also injured. A lot of people will have seen it. He got injured in the last game, so that wasn't a surprise that he's also out. But let's be real. The reason Gusto is injured is because of Reece James. Because, sure, Reece was suspended for the Prem, but if he wasn't injured, he could have still played the Conference League, which would have saved Gusto the minutes and probably would have kept Gusto's hamstring alive. But now instead, he goes from 2 very good right backs to no right backs.
The Sassy started right back. The Sassy started right back in definitely one of those Conference League.
True, yeah. In the second one he did, but in the first one it was still him. And I think Gusto still came on in 7, didn't he?
He still came on, yeah.
I think he still played, but I think he's,
Yeah. So even still some minutes, right? And obviously for this one, Reece James would have been back in terms of the suspension, or would he already have been back in the last one? How many league? No, we've played 3
games now, because I remember it was 4 games suspension, wasn't it?
Yeah, but that was the last game of the season was still included in that. So it was like 3 games into this season he was suspended essentially. But yeah, let me bring up the quick summary of Maresca's press conference that summarizes and also mentions Gusto obviously being injured as well. Yeah, Damesh, why don't you speak about it for a second? Firstly, let's touch on Reece James, then we'll get into Romeo Lavia as well. I think we all love him, right? We all want him to be fit. We all want him to play for us. But my God, you are never fit. You are a captain. Our actual vice captain, well, was first frozen out. Now he's kind of being back in. We'll talk about that later as well. Now we have Enzo, who's the captain the whole time, who's finding the loopholes over not getting charged over racism chants. I mean, like, what is this football club, man? Our ownerships are fighting. Our captain is still being investigated over racist chant. Our captain can't be fit, and our vice captain was frozen out from the team. What? Who does this? What is this? Do you know what I mean? But Reece James, man, I'm sure he feels way more gutted and frustrated by this than any of us do. I'm sure of it. But my God, something needs to happen. Like, obviously. And I'm not even saying by something needs to happen in terms of sell him or, I don't know, terminate his contract or anything mental. But what I cannot comprehend when someone is, first of all, the captain, but also has such a dodgy injury history and scenario, I cannot understand why the club aren't a bit more open about what exactly is happening. Like Charlie said, they said a minor issue. We should expect it to be back for Bournemouth, which at the time almost sounded like maybe they're just giving him an extra pre-season or something because he was suspended anyway and we don't need him for the Conference League qualifiers. But now, like Charlie said, not only is he not available tomorrow, he's not even in training. He's nowhere near available tomorrow. And I mean, what? Like, we need to know more. Tell us more. Why is he not fit? What's happening? Is it the hamstring? Is it the hamstring that he had surgery on? Is it the other leg? Are we just taking it super cautiously? Why is he nowhere to be seen? It just blows my mind. Dubs, as a fan, like, I think you've actually been in our group chat a few times, a bit more, I'm not even going to call it harsh, a bit more like quick to say, if he doesn't start staying fit, we need to just get rid. The problem is, a lot of people always say that. There's no club in the world that's going to buy him. No club in the world is going to buy him with these injury issues. No one. Like, 2 million that we'll probably get for him. So it's not even worth contemplating selling it because who the fuck would buy it? It's more like we need to figure out his bloody fitness situation because otherwise we're paying him 250k for another 7 years, mate. And it's mental if he can't start staying ever.
No, 100%. It's frustrating because I don't doubt his ability at all. I don't think anyone does. Like Reece James, arguably, when he's fit, when he's on form, you know that he's one of the best fullbacks in the world. Like, everyone knows that. But it's just the fitness, man. Like, it's just frustrating. It's a difficult situation for the club, for him. Is he doing something different? Is he not eating right? Is he not training right? Is this new coaching method getting too much for him? We just don't know. And I wish the club will come out more, as you both said, onto why this is happening. And I think, as harsh as it sounds, man, we have to assess the situation in January, I reckon, or in summer. I'm not saying sell him just like that, but we can't rely on this guy to stay fit. That's just fact. And it's been like that for the past 3 or 4 years now. It's a shame. It is what it is, but it's hard because obviously he's one of our own as well. He's our captain, one of our best players at the club when he's fit. If we do sell him, obviously it's going to look wild that we sell one of our best players. But if he's barely fit, then it has to be done. Unfortunately, that's just been me cold-hearted.
I mean, like you said, it has to be done.
It's just,
I genuinely think it's an impossible task that you wouldn't even be able to pull off.
No, I think you would. I think you saw someone.
Who's going to buy him? Saudi. Okay. Let's take Saudi out of it.
No, but clubs would take him, and I think
they would.
They would, and I think as you've seen with other players that have left Chelsea who had a lot of injuries at the club, don't get injured at all now. Kante, fine. Loftus-Cheek, fine. Pulisic, fine. Whoever else is left.
Ruben actually did have 1 or 2 smaller injuries.
Yeah, but like nowhere near as what they were having at Chelsea. So I don't think there'd be problems. I don't think there'd be any problem
at times because obviously he was playing on injections for us at one point, wasn't he? And like he's never injured for us. Well, he barely plays, to be honest with you, but he's never injured.
I'm not at the point with James just yet where I'm thinking like we've got a decision to make. But what I would say is right now, if he has another season like the last couple of seasons where he doesn't even play 10 games for the club or 10, if he doesn't even play 15 games, then there's a genuine conversation to be had because. Look, we all love him. We all want him more than anything to be playing for Chelsea and doing his thing for the club. But ultimately, for me, it doesn't matter how good you are. Right now, he is not contributing anything to this football club. We have got an absent captain who's contributing nothing and is being paid hundreds of thousands of pounds a week to do nothing, to use the gym. So
not even using the gym, because that will do his hamstring again.
I mean, it might sound a bit harsh, but that's the reality of the situation right now. You've got an absent captain who's being paid a lot of money to contribute nothing to the football club. And I'm not saying it's his fault, but you've got to get to the bottom of this. As you said, Doris, like, is it the same hamstring post-surgery? Is it a different one? Has something else happened? I mean, look, I get it. The club don't have to say anything about these injuries, but some sort of clarity wouldn't go amiss, because otherwise it just leads to all sorts of speculation. But I think the bottom line is, even if they were being cautious, right, there's cautious and there's being cautious. You're telling me that over a month after the start of the season that he's not even back in training. That's ridiculous caution if that's being cautious. There's no way that they're being cautious to that level. So for me, I'm annoyed about it, and it's like it's more than frustrating because it's happening again. But let's see. I'm not counting him missing the first 3 games, because he wasn't. Even if he was fit, he wasn't playing them. So forget those. Let's see how many games he's unavailable for from now in this slot. If I'm being honest, mate, for me, he's not even back in training. We're not going to see this guy until after the next international break.
I was going to say, yeah, I think literally end of October. That's what it is, isn't it? End of October.
I think it's the start of October, after Forest. So you play Forest on the 5th or 6th of October, then it's the break.
Then it's the break, yeah. Yeah, I reckon end of October, we'll see him get a few minutes, because obviously he still has to train. He still needs to get that match sharpness as well. Like, I genuinely think end of October, start of November is when we'll see him. Maybe the United game, because finally, if I just looked at some of the fixtures earlier, we play United. United away on November the 3rd. I genuinely think you'll probably be ready for that. But we'll see. I don't know.
Yeah, it's impossible to judge when he's going to be fit. I mean, the baffling thing is he did last summer's preseason and he did this summer's preseason and gets injured straight after it. So, it's not like he missed preseason and then was kind of rushed in terms of fitness. He actually did all of the fitness work that should build your fitness for the season, and then he's out again. It's just so frustrating. And then the next one, who, I can't lie, it's also becoming frustrating, is Romeo Lavia. And what makes it all the more frustrating is how fantastic he was in pre-season and even in the first couple of games, like against City, for example. He was by far our best player, in my opinion. But the thing is, he's so young. We're essentially only still going off by what he's done at Southampton and what he's done in the academy at Man City. So, like, with Reece James, as much as there's obviously the injuries, at least he's proven to us how good he is and how good he can be. And, I don't know if this has hindered Reece James's development now, but in theory, when we were last talking about a fit and fully, going Reece James, we were talking about a 21, 22-year-old who would still be getting even better. Now, obviously, with the injuries, will he still get better? Is this now his level? Is it? Who knows, right? That's a different conversation. But with Lavia, it's also becoming frustrating. Like, at least he's supposed to be back for next week, so I guess that's something. And, it's certainly not. He's not had a history for as many seasons as Reece James now, so we're certainly nowhere near, like, do we need to sell? But it's very much frustrating, and especially with our midfield situation. Now, I'm not sure if you're quite the same aware of that. Certainly I am, Dams, and I assume Charlie is as well, because we decided to loan out Ugo Chukwu and Leslie Ugo Chukwu and Andre Santos. We're also kind of light in midfield, which is the baffling thing.
Yeah, no, we are.
Caicedo and Enzo have just returned from South America. They're both going to have to start tomorrow. There's not even really, like, there's not another option. Even if you left, like, even with them in the team, there's a few conversations like, do we have enough people in midfield, depending on how a certain individual is going to be used tomorrow. So, like, and then you have, okay, Renato Veiga can do that. Fantastic. Brilliant. But he's also supposed to be our left back backup. So, it can't be both at the same time. So, yeah, we need to get Lavia fit, because, I mean, Lavia being fit also creates a problem, because if Lavia is as good as he was in pre-season in the first game before he got injured, then he should be playing over Caicedo. I'll be honest, he should be. So I don't know if that happens, but on what they've shown, he should be. So, I mean, I'll go with you again first, Charlie. Where do you stand on it with Lavia? Is it much further along from being concerned than it is with Reece James, because it's only the beginning of his second season being injured so much? Because as far as I'm aware, at least, and chat, please correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think he had much of a
no, I don't think he had
injury history before joining us.
No, I don't think he was. Obviously, last season was just one of them unfortunate things. It's not ideal that, again, again, I'm not saying similar to Reece because we're literally in a very different situation in terms of how frequently this has happened. But again, said it was minor that he missed Wolves, and he's now missed Wolves, Palace, and he's going to miss this Bournemouth game. And they're hopeful that he might be back for West Ham. But again, he's not back in training either. So unless Chelsea have got a very different definition of what minor is compared to your average person, there's always that possibility. But yeah, it's a problem. It is a problem because, excuse me, as you say, there's no real natural replacement for him in the squad. And it's easy to say now, we shouldn't have loaned out Ugochukwu and Santos together because maybe we could have done with one of them now, but you never know what it's going to be. But I think with hindsight, you could have probably said that with Lavia's injury record and the fact that they're going to have to ease him back in because he's not played for so long, maybe until at least January, it might have been smart to have kept Santos or Ugochukwu, one of those guys, until January, and then send them on loan for the second half of the season if the minutes are going to be a bit sparse once we get to January. That perhaps maybe would have made more sense. But with Lavia, it's frustrating because, again, he's someone that, we just want him playing football. He was probably our best performer in pre-season. He was brilliant against Man City. The games in which he hasn't played this season, the midfield has been passed through very easily on a number of occasions. And as good as what Enzo and Caicedo are, they can't do what Lavia does. Caicedo maybe can do it perhaps more than Enzo can, but they can't do what Lavia does. There's no midfielder like Lavia in the squad right now. So when he doesn't play, you notice big time what's missing. I don't think there's any coincidence for me that the midfield's been passed through quite easily when he's not been there.
Yeah. To be honest, bro, I even actually think that even Lavia isn't as good defensively as some people think. And I think even Lavia has bigger strength going forward. Not saying bigger strength going forward than defensively, but bigger strength going forward than people think. If people think of him as this pure DM guy, I don't even think he is that. I think there's also a few deficiencies defensively with him. Obviously, he's so young that could very much still, come and be taught and, improve. But yeah, it's annoying. With our squad situation, it's definitely annoying. I mean, to be fair, Andre Santos is, according to, I think, Who Scored, the highest rated midfielder this season of the top 5 leagues in terms of match rating. So, he's clearly balling out to some extent. As far as I know, Ugochukwu has done quite well for Southampton so far as well. But yeah, this is just a baffling thing. We have about 300 number 10s and wingers, but only one DM. How stupid are we? It's just Ejnaku said Carney and Dewsbury Hall midfield. That's the problem. Dewsbury Hall can't play 6. Carney can't play 6. How has this happened? Obviously, you could argue, well, you have Reece James there. Well, he's never fit either. Do you know what I mean? We're just, it's a big mess. Another thing that I want to talk about from, Maresca's press conference is Enzo Fernandez. And I'm not sure if you guys, I assume you haven't, Dams. He was asked, essentially, Maresca was asked about Enzo Fernandez's position. And the way Maresca spoke about it is essentially, he's like, well, off the ball, he's supposed to play like a 6. On the ball, he's supposed to play like a 10. Making him essentially a number 8, right? He said that's kind of what Arsenal do with Declan Rice. I'm like, okay, I'm not sure if we needed a comparison between Enzo and Declan Rice right now, but sure. But it's not working. And the fact that he said we will continue like this and had a flight just today to London. Did he only today? So he's probably not playing. Is that true? Today? No, it must have been yesterday.
Well,
always come back Thursday.
Well, it could have. To be fair, it could have been. I wouldn't have been surprised. It could have been overnight Thursday and the land on Friday.
Yeah, landed Friday morning. Yeah, that may well. And to be honest, that was the case a few times last season as well. Which is
always the problem.
Why did we leave ourselves in this position? It's stupid anyway to have a midfield purely of South Americans who, after every international break, will fitness-wise not be at the best. It's not ideal.
No, you're fucked after every break.
Exactly. And then on top of that, obviously we didn't get Osimhen in the end, but imagine we got Osimhen, then we'd go to Africa Cup of Nations and all of a sudden both our strikers are gone. I don't know what these people think of when it comes to squad planning, but certainly not the important bits. It's just about, is he talented? Yes. Can we sell him for profit? Yes. Okay, let's sign him. Nothing else is considered. It's infuriating to me. But yeah, this Enzo Fernandez usage, yeah, very interesting that he's so that Enzo Maresca said that he's doing good. And we're going to continue this way. I just first of all, I think Caicedo I'm not saying could do it better than Enzo, but could at least do it to an extent where I'm give it a go. Because I still think Enzo Fernandez could just thrive way more if he was allowed to play a bit deeper. I know we don't play the exact midfield that allows Enzo as the normal deep kind of playmaker. Like, for example, he plays for Argentina. The whole setup is a bit different. So that position is a bit more difficult to create for us and to come by for us. But even still, I still think I'd like to at least see it tried. It's not like we play Man City every week. Like, you had that Servette game there to try it. You know, you had, and maybe Bournemouth away isn't the game to try it, but like, I don't know, a couple of games will come up where it could be worth a shout. I mean, Dams, where do you stand? And you go to most games. What do you think of Enzo? Oh, most home games. What do you think of Enzo Fernandez's position? Like, do you, when you watch it, feel like he's being played out of position? Do you think he's just struggling a little bit, or do you actually think some people are blowing it a bit out of proportion? It's not even doing that bad.
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest with you, because I remember specifically the City game. Like, there was so many points where Edison would have the ball, or I think Diaz, and you see Enzo, the one that's pressing the highest. Or if even from a pass back from the keeper, you see Enzo just would go past Jackson. It's like, I'm just baffled. I was like, Enzo's so much better as a deep playmaker in that position than like a pressing midfielder as he was last season for us. So majority of the time he played on the like a left CM or like a left mid for us, to be honest with you, on the Poch. I personally don't think you get the best out of Enzo where he is at the moment. And he's not really classified as a 10 just because of what that sort of requirement requires for a 10. You see players like Nkunku and Palmer, you'd assume that they're more natural in that position than Enzo. I'd rather have them two and then have someone like Enzo Caicedo in that 6 rather than both of them in a way, because I think with the way the setup is, or you play Enzo and Caicedo together and then have a 10 in front of them, whether that be Palmer and Nkunku, whoever. It's just, you're not getting the best out of Enzo. And it is very, very similar to a situation where Paul Pogba with United. I think it's a very similar situation where you have a really good player, but I just don't think the setup around him was what was required. And I think that's the same with Enzo, to be honest with you. But like you said, Loz, that even the Servette game, you should have just experimented there with playing Enzo in the 6. I mean,
we also didn't do it in preseason. I think maybe for one half, but
for one half he did. Yeah, that's right.
Not enough. I'm like, I just find it weird. I mean, Enzo Maresca did in the presser say that we worked on a few things, like new things to try, but well, Enzo weren't there, so you know.
No, exactly, and it's just it's just strange because most teams you come up against in the Prem are low block teams, and that's where you want someone like Enzo to pick up, because we know we can pick up pass. Like, look at that. Pre-assist he got for Noni against Palace.
What should have been an assist, because Noni didn't score.
It was him that played the ball in to Noni, and that's where you see Enzo at his best, spraying balls to the wide flanks, to Mudryk, to Madueke, to Neto, whoever. Not really him sort of taking the ball in the half turn, turning and creating something out of that. That's just not his game. And yeah, I just don't like it personally. I just find it baffling. Even people around the ground as well, they're like, why the hell's Enzo so high up the pitch? But they're also slating him as well. So, Enzo should be doing this, It's like, as a 10, he's not a 10, man. You're not playing him in the right position. You're not getting the best out of him. And then people will come back and say, he cost 110 million.
Right? Someone, whether it was Euro Expert or Connor, they all said they think he should play as a 6. And they also thought Maresca would do that. But it just hasn't. And that's
I don't understand why, right? When you signed Nkunku, Neto, and you've got Nkunku, Felix, and you've got Cole Palmer.
And Dewsbury Hall.
Why on earth would you play Enzo Fernandez as a 10? I'm not being funny. I'd rather play Dewsbury Hall as a 10 than Enzo. Dewsbury Hall's got a much better eye for goal than Enzo has. He's more of a goal scorer than Enzo is. Based on, I mean, look, Enzo don't score a lot of goals. Dewsbury Hall is more of a goal scorer. I mean, I'd almost rather have Dewsbury Hall play as a 10 than Enzo. Like, when you've got all these options, why is Enzo Fernandez even in the manager's mind when thinking about who plays 10?
Exactly. And then he sat there saying, like, we have too many players in that position to play Carney Chukwuemeka. I'm like, no, we don't. Well, we do, but you're adding one into that position, which shouldn't even be in that position. I mean,
yeah, no, I agree.
Charlie, before I let you speak about it, Fire Red says, yeah, guys, Enzo isn't that guy. Defensively, he's a liability. Whether you think that or not, Fire Red, it's kind of irrelevant. We paid £105 million for that guy.
He's playing.
We're not going to sell him. That what we need to do is figure out how to get the best out of him. Because, I mean, maybe Fire Red will disagree, but most people will agree that there is clearly a superb player in there. And it's up to us to make that work. Sure, it's also down to him to some extent, but how can it be every international break? He plays fantastically for Argentina, comes back to us and looks terrible. Now, sure, international football is different. All well and good. But still, how often do you see players that are good in the Prem or whatever also do good on the international stage? Most of the time. Do you know what I mean? So why couldn't this be the case for us?
That's one thing I'd say as well. Like I'd say, do you know how you mentioned about Lavia being the sort of the only type of profile player that we have? I think the same for Enzo. I think Enzo's the only sort of type of profile player for him that we have in our squad.
Ball like him in the team.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, and playing him in the 10, like obviously, I'd rather have Chukwuemeka even play there. To be honest with you, than over Enzo in that 10. Like that's not. I know this sounds like we're getting onto Enzo's back a lot, but I low-key feel sorry for him, man. It's just not.
That's what I'm saying. Because I'm like, the guy's clearly good. The guy clearly tries very hard. Like played with an injury or with significant pain from his hernia for months and months last season, and all he gets is abuse from the fans. Well, I'm like, it's not bloody this guy's fault. Do you know what I mean? Like people have a go at me for saying Dewsbury Hall's shit. Well, he's played shit every time he's played. So what do you want me to say? We're just going to baby him and say, oh, he's actually good, even though he's not. Like, what do you mean? But Charlie, what do you think of? I'm not sure if you saw the clip of Maresca talking about it, but what do you think of him saying he thinks he's doing well at this and we're going to continue this way? Do you see Enzo ever like kind of grasping the position better and all of a sudden becoming good at doing
he's
what
not really played as a 10
right
now? He's not played as a 10 that much though, has he? Like I know in some games, certainly in that first game against City, he started as a 10. So obviously second half against Palace, he was basically playing as a centre back.
Yeah.
And then, do you know what? Second half against Wolves, I thought he played very, very well.
Oh, no, wait. Second half against Palace, Caicedo was playing centre back, not Enzo.
No. Enzo was playing centre back pretty much.
No,
Caicedo shifted to right back.
Yeah, Caicedo's right back.
Yeah. Mate, second half against Wolves, I thought Enzo was brilliant. You know, I can't remember exactly where he played. He definitely wasn't playing as a 10 though, because we had like Neto, we had Felix on, we had Palmer on. He was very, very good in that second half. But I agree with that on the screen. Like you watch him play for Argentina and you sort of think, well, why would you then not try and utilize him in exactly the same way? Because he's very good for Argentina. So yeah, okay, what he plays alongside McAllister and what is him, McAllister and DePaul, or it's two of those three normally. It's confusing for me. I'm at the point now with Enzo for me where if the only option is to play him in the 10, I'd rather him be on the bench. That might sound ridiculous, but I actually would. I don't want this guy playing in the 10, which is not his position, and then people calling him shit when he's not a shit footballer.
The problem is obviously our tactical setup, isn't it? That in possession, the position that Enzo plays becomes the number 10. But out of the ball, he's not supposed to be the 10. Obviously, out of the ball when the opponents have it within their goalie and their centre backs, sure, then pressing. But in terms of when they enter like the centre third or our third, Enzo is supposed to drop into next to the number 6.
And that's where
it becomes an issue. That's why you can't play Nkunku there, or that's why you can't play Joao Felix there, because if you make them do that, well, that's not going to work even more.
But that's the big thing with Enzo, right? We all know that he's got exceptional quality on the ball. Off the ball, particularly sort of tactically off the ball, positionally off the ball, he's got a lot of improving to do, because 100%. There are a number of times off the ball when we're out of possession, obviously, that he's not with it. You know, there's a number of times out of possession where he just lets the game ghost past him, or players go past him, or he's not picking up the right positions. In possession, he's very good. Out of possession, there's still a lot of work for him to do, in my opinion.
It's a weird one, because when you look at the stats after every game. Enzo's defensive stats aren't often that bad. He has decent dual stats usually. He has decent tackling stats, like often not worse than Caicedo. I can't lie.
But
Obviously,
think
what the stats don't show is the duels that you should get into, but you don't, and then people go past you too easily. That doesn't show up.
Like people, maybe it's because people expect a lot more from him, but I almost feel like now he's just like he's basically a scapegoat for any bad performance. You know, a little bit like it's a little bit like Mudryk. You know, everyone could be shit, right? But the two people that will get singled out every time will be Enzo or Mudryk, even if the whole team is complete shit, and even if they're not the worst players on the pitch. It just happened on multiple occasions.
I wonder why
always singled out.
That happened to Enzo and not Caicedo. Like Caicedo is a bit like that too in terms of being scapegoated a lot, but I feel like not as much as Enzo. I don't know why that is, but yeah, I agree with you. I absolutely agree with you.
Could it be also be a fact
of me thinks maybe it's still adaptation to this way of playing, of essentially him playing two positions, different positions in and out of the ball. Maybe we need to give that a bit more time. But the problem is obviously Enzo wasn't particularly great last year, so that's why people obviously have this issue. But I guess, you know, there's nothing we can do about it anyway. Maresca will keep playing him, and then we'll see how it goes. Another topic from this, talks expected with Ben Chilwell. I mean, we'll get the Carney stuff out the way. Carney is involved. He's included in the Conference League squad. But Maresca also said he kind of thinks it would have been better if he went on loan, but he didn't. So now he will, when he gets the chance, when we have injuries, he will get games.
Bro, he's playing in Almaty.
Probably is, although watching Carney is probably going to get injured 3 days before that game, isn't he? Yeah. So just to make sure he still gets no minutes. But yeah, talks expected with Chilwell. This was basically like an hour or two before it was revealed publicly that Ben Chilwell has actually been included in the Premier League squad for this season, in the 25-man Premier League squad. Now, people, we have to be a bit realistic here. Obviously, there's homegrown quotas and everything else, which that is partly why Chilwell has been included, because he is homegrown, so you can basically almost include infinite of him. Like, you know, if these kind of English in England educated players, for example, Noni Madueke doesn't count to it. Jadon Sancho doesn't count to it. Those guys don't count because they were, you know, educated footballing-wise for the majority of those years outside of England. But Chilwell does count to it. But even still, Dams, you're a big fan of Ben Chilwell. I think now, because we're light in midfield and because I expect Renato Veiga to have to be used in midfield at times, I think in those games, there is a chance that sometimes Chile plays. The only problem is he's not involved in the Conference League, which is the only competition where he might get the game. You know what I mean? Because it's going to be like when you need to rest Cucurella, but you do not have Veiga available for left back because you need him in midfield. Then those games could be where Chile plays, because we haven't always inverted the left back. Even in the last game against Palace, Cucurella wasn't doing any inverting. Cucurella, you know, was playing like a normal left back, essentially. Maybe not quite as attacking, but like a normal left back. So, and I'm not saying Chile will be great at that, but you can still do something with it rather than paying him 200k a week to not do anything. But yeah, what do you think of the whole treatment though? First, we froze him out to kind of make him look for a new club. He didn't anyway. Well, I'm sure he did look, but he didn't find one that either wanted to pay his wages or he was willing to go to. Now he's here. Well, what do you make of this? Do you think he will get games? Do you think he should get games?
Yeah, I don't think he'll get game time because we're obviously still to play in the Carabao Cup against Borough. I actually think that's a game that he'll start in, to be honest with you. I think he'll start the Borough game. And yeah, like I just want to see what I think my thing with Chilwell is I just want to see him in the system. It's all good and well saying that, writing him off already in the system, but I want to see it for myself, for me personally, how he'll settle into Maresca's system. Then I can make a judgment. If he does horridly, then I can hold my hands up and say, yeah, okay, fair enough, he's shit. He's not good enough to play under this team, this manager, and we should look to offload. But writing him off already when we haven't seen him kick a ball for Maresca, I think is wrong.
We have in pre-season, and he was awful.
I
mean, it's only pre-season. That's fair.
And it's there's so many times where players have been shit in pre-season and they've obviously turned it around, or vice versa, the other way around, where they've done well in pre-season and not during the actual season. So I just want to see what kind of role Maresca has for him, what he can do. Like I said, if he does horridly wrong, if he does really bad, if he's doing as what most fans expect him to do, then yeah, fair enough. I can say, yeah, We should look to sell him ASAP in January. Try and get some about that 50 million we spent on him. But yeah, like I said, I just want to see how you're feeling. Do you think there'll be games for him available? Given the fact that we'll probably use, I can actually see. Funny enough, I could maybe see Cucurella start at right back. We saw that a bit last season, didn't we? Where he played at right back.
But I was Poch doing that. I'm not sure if Maresca will do that. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. You never know.
He
then obviously
he used Gusto at left back in pre-season, so he might switch it around.
Exactly. Yeah. So then Veiga will
probably did that only before Cucurella joined the squad, though. So it's like, would he do that if he has other options? I don't know. But does he have other options right now? That we'll get into our lineup in a minute.
That's the thing. And if we're pushing Veiga into midfield a few games, then and resting Cucurella. Or if Cucurella has to go right back, then the left back.
That's the problem, right? If Chile was in the Conference League squad, I could genuinely see that happening. Obviously, Carabao Cup, like you say, maybe early FA Cup rounds, absolutely. Yeah. But you're gonna need to rest Cucurella in the Conference League. But then that's also when you're gonna have to rest Caicedo. And then so if Lavia is fit, fine, then no problem, right? Although was Lavia not also not
Lavia's not in the Conference League squad?
No, he's not in Conference. Him, Fofana, and
so exactly. So essentially, that means you need to rest Enzo or Caicedo, one of them, in the Prem games. So that's how they always fucking brilliant. How can you have 50,000 players and not enough in a position because you loan out too many? Like, we're just stupid. Charlie, where do you stand on the Ben Chilwell situation? On frozen out, then brought back into the squads. Do you think he'll get any minutes? Even if it's just Barrow?
I think there'll be minimal minutes there for him. Honestly think like look, you're not going to leave him out the squad completely because one, you need to fill that homegrown quota, and two, at the end of the day, it's an experienced player training around the first team. He's a good teammate at the end of the day, and that experience around the dressing room might be beneficial in some capacity. The only way I see him playing, right, maybe against Barrow, but in terms of if he features in the Premier League, the only way he features for me is if we've got some sort of crisis where literally no one's kind of available at left back. That's the only way. I don't think this suddenly means he's going to be back in.
Do you reckon we could have him on the bench in some games and bring him on when we need a goal?
No, I don't think so. I wouldn't have thought so. Not for me personally, given the attacking options you've got on the bench. So for me, mate, this is not a surprise that he's been named in there. It's not a surprise to bring him back into the fold. It makes sense. You know, if you're trying to find suitors for him, of which there were none this summer, he's going to need a few minutes just to make everyone aware that, yes, by the way, guys, I do still play football. You can come and buy me if you want to. So it's in Chelsea's best interest.
We'll loan him out to Turkey next year.
But it's in Chelsea's best interests for Chilwell to play some minutes. You know, I'm not saying loads, but it's in Chelsea's best interest for him to at least be around the first team and play a few minutes here and there, just to put himself in the shop window to try and find a solution in January. This doesn't change anything about the long-term picture for Chilwell. He's finished at the club. We all know that. But for me, it doesn't change a lot. He could play against Barrow, and at most, he might get a few minutes in the league if we've got some sort of crisis. But I don't expect him to suddenly be making match day squads all of a sudden.
Fair dues. And yes, Ejinaku, yes, he did. Because at the time, they were like, okay, Cucurella is shit. We're focusing on Chilwell. Now they were like, okay, actually, Chile is shit and Cucurella is great. Because these sport directors have no idea what they're doing. But yeah, one last little topic that I would like to touch on before we get into picking our predicted or our team for the game is that something that came out as we were live here. By CFC Daily, who posted a statement by the Chelsea pitch owners, obviously regarding certain reports in terms of the stadium, even though the Guardian drastically jumped the gun in terms of what supposedly we are doing, talks with Earl's Court or whatever else, only for then Matt Law to confirm from Earl's Court, we have other plans. I don't know what you're talking about. But yeah, just to quickly read through it, the Chelsea pitch owner statement is saying, in light of the recent Guardian article and the subsequent commentary in the press and social media, the board of Chelsea pitch owners has made the following statement. The board of Chelsea pitch owners is aware that Chelsea FC is exploring all options to fulfill its commitment to redevelop the grounds. This includes them also doing due diligence on the possibility of moving to a new site should a suitable one be available. Chelsea pitch owners has regularly meetings has regular meetings, with the club across a variety of subjects, and the club is completely aware of the role that Chelsea pitch owners, shareholders will play in whatever their final proposal is for redeveloping Stamford Bridge. The club has yet to make a proposal to the Chelsea pitch owners board. The Chelsea pitch owners board states again that fans wishing to have their voice heard on this subject can do so by buying Chelsea pitch owner shares via the link below. This will entitle them to vote as and when any proposal is received from the club. The CPO board recognizes its responsibility to consult with shareholders and will do so when the club presents a proposal for consideration. I mean, just to keep it short, Charlie, where do you stand on the stadium situation? Realistically, right, nothing has changed yet. So until they figure out what can be done on site and what can be done on another site, it's kind of irrelevant, really. Because if Earl's Court is not an option, I think that makes moving almost a non-option, really. Like if it was Earl's Court, if it's that close, I think you could maybe there's even a small chance to convince the pitch owners into that. Maybe. I'm not saying guaranteed. Even for example, under Roman, when he tried to move, I think 67% said, yeah, okay, let's move. But you needed a 3/4 majority. So you needed 75% of the pitch owners to agree. We weren't far off that. Now, sure, that was Roman, and the pitch owners were always much more likely to play by Roman rules than anything what these current owners do. They would just in principle say no. But still, if it's not Earl's Court, if that's truly not an option, I think they just need to figure out how to make it happen on site. Like there was a proposal in 2015, so clearly it is theoretically possible, as expensive as it may be. Figure it the fuck out. Do you know what I mean? Like you've been here for 2 years, you've done nothing but shit. You've not found the sponsors, you've not done a stadium. Do something useful for once. Stop being just rich American billionaires that waste air. Like do something useful. Do you know what I mean? You muted, bro.
This doesn't really change anything. I think if Chelsea are going to leave Stamford Bridge, unless another site's come up somewhere that we don't know anything about and hasn't been mentioned, if we're going to leave the bridge, it is literally going to be for Earl's Court. Otherwise, Stamford Bridge is going to be either knocked down and rebuilt and we'll go and play somewhere else for a few years, or it will be a stand-by-stand redevelopment. That's as far as I'm concerned, those are the three options. Earl's Court, knock the ground down completely, go and play somewhere else for a few years, or you stand by stand.
Knock it down completely because of heritage.
No, but you knock most of it down or whatever. But yeah. For me, nothing's really changed on that front. I think Earl's Court would be a good solution, but ultimately we're a long way from anything really being serious on any front to do at a stadium. So as far as I'm concerned, it's not something that's really at the forefront of my thinking.
No, exactly. I mean, I'm the same. I just mentioned it because this statement came out as we were live. Dams, just quickly as well, where do you stand on the stadium situation? Try to keep it short.
Yeah. This has been going on for ages as well. Hypothetically, we should have just do you know when the Battersea development was going on around here? I think that was the time to move. To be honest with you,
when was that? Like 2010-ish?
I think it started around then, but I think the development's actually been there now, maybe honestly 3-4 years. I think it's fairly new, to be fair. It looks good, to be fair, but that's when the time was to move and stuff. But one thing on the pitch as well, I picture anything. I do like the fact that they've got the option for voice to voice their opinion for the fans as well. I think that's a nice touch, to be honest with you. That they really care about the pitch and stuff like that. So this whole stadium stuff is just it's just talk that we've always heard from every year that we're planning to move, but whether it actually happens, we don't know. So we'll see.
Exactly, we will see. Just quickly, because we're going to come to the team now. Filip Jorgensen was forced off when playing for Denmark under 21s this international break. Not that he would play anyway, but he's also not been mentioned. Is he injured? Is he not? I have no idea.
No, there's been a picture of him. There was a picture of him training.
Okay. I mean, like I say, all I'm saying is he was forced off for the under 21s in Denmark. But make of that what you will. Let's get into our team and let's try to predict the team, because I think if we're doing our own team, it's going to get too wild. We'll have 3 different opinions and we'll get nothing on screen. So let's try to find our predicted 11. Now, obviously, can I put Sanchez there? Because we know it will be Rob Sanchez. I will put it up as a 4-2-3-1 because maybe that's kind of a principle, but obviously we all know there's the likelihood of one of the fullbacks inverting, but maybe also not this time. We'll see. So yeah, I'll just keep it as that for now, but we'll talk through what every player's role may or may not be. Dums, actually, Charlie, I'll start with you. What about your two centre-backs? And obviously keep in mind who you may be playing at right back in terms of your centre-back selection, because one of the usual centre-backs could also be the right back.
For me, mate, it's going to be Chilwell and Fofana. I don't see any reason to change that at all. Just keep that continuity of the pairing. No reasons to change it in my view.
Fair dues. I mean, Dums, do you agree? Would you stick to those two? The only reason why I'm asking that question is if we're playing one of the centre backs at right back, whether that's Disasi or Fofana, I think it should be Fofana because Fofana is quicker and more mobile and therefore better at defending wide areas. So if you're making any of those two play right back, I think it should be Fofana, not Disasi. That's why I'm saying maybe one of those two. Well, Fofana should be the right back because I'm like, if you have to play Disasi, I'd rather Disasi play centre back than Disasi play right back because I think just Fofana is much more capable of doing that job than Disasi is. So unless we're going to do Caicedo at right back and make him invert, which I might be a fan of, but depends on what you boys pick. That's why I'm like, let's see. So, Dams, with that in mind, would you play? I mean, obviously, tell me your centre backs, but then already lead it into the right back. Who would be your centre backs, and then who would be your right back?
Yeah, I'd stick with Cole.
Who do you expect Maresca to play? Sorry, that's what I should ask.
Yeah, I expect Maresca to put Disasi there, to be honest with you, at right back. And with the centre backs, I think, Cole Fofana, I think I've criticised them massively, especially first two games. I was not happy with the way they defended, or even called for Disasi and Badiashile to start in the. I think it was the Wolves game or the Palace game. I can't remember what.
Why were you even picking Disasi? Like, is it just off the basis of the last game that we're all talking about Disasi and no one's mentioning Tosin either?
Yeah, like even with Tosin's done well, but I just don't think he's the level that we need at centre back or the level of centre back that we require at the moment. Just based on what I've seen with Fulham and based on what I've seen of the Conference League games, to be honest with you. I will say that Cole and Fofana have done. I think they've defended well last game, and even the second half against Wolves, I thought they did well as well. So I'd stick with Cole and Fofana. Then I'd expect Disasi to play right back. I would prefer him there, to be honest with you, than Fofana, just because we know that he's played there. And he has performed there in the past.
Fofana, even for Leicester, I think he played right back sometimes.
Yeah, that's I don't know. Yeah, I'd still stick with Disasi just because I've seen it with my own eyes. I think I do think he can do a job there. And obviously, I do think Fofana could defend wide areas better than Disasi, but with his pace, his positioning, everything. But I think we've already seen it with Disasi there. So I stick with. I think Maresca will stick with Disasi there.
Fair dues. I will just automatically add Cucurella in here because, first of all, that will happen, and I'm sure we all agree that will happen.
Yeah.
Charlie, what about your right back situation? I'm going to be, if you go with Disasi as well, you outvote me, and that's no problem. My pick would be starting Caicedo at right back and inverting him. That would be my pick. But obviously, I also don't know how fit even is. Like, is Caicedo even ready to actually play? I have no idea. Do you know what I mean? Like, can he start full stop? But presuming that he can, I think that would be, and I will just quickly elaborate on screen why I think that makes sense for the viewers more so than for you guys. I think you guys have.
I'd do that as well. Yeah.
And then I'd have Enzo as this guy. Then I'd have Enzo as the guy that remains deep of the midfielders. And then I don't care. If you want to make that Palmer, make it Palmer. If you want to make it Dewsbury Hall, make it Dewsbury Hall. I don't really care. Maybe I'd even pick Carney Chukwuemeka. Kind of irrelevant. I'll just call it X for now. That X player moves into there like what we always do and essentially creates a four behind a striker. You allow Caicedo to move into next to Enzo, which kind of then is natural anyway. And then you have this natural back three that we kind of want to see anyway. So that's why for me, letting Caicedo do this makes the most sense of all of our options. The only one small problem is, who is this guy going to be? Because I don't rate Dewsbury Hall, and I'm not sure if Palmer shouldn't be getting a rest rather than starting after obviously pulling out of the England squad with muscle fatigue and stuff, because the last thing we need is Palmer getting injured. But I mean, Charlie, to bring it back to your right back choice, and again, if you pick Disasi, that's fine, and then we will go with Disasi. But did you see my call for Caicedo in this sense to do this?
I can hear it, but I don't see Maresca doing it. If Lavia was available, then yeah, I could see that being a very viable option. But if I'm honest, bro, I think it's going to be either. I think he'll pick the Sassy, or maybe he'll switch Cucurella to right back. But I think the Sassy's the. If I had to put money on it, I'd say he's going to pick the Sassy.
Yeah, I mean, there is obviously that case to be made. Play Cucurella right back, play Renato Veiga left back. Sure, you can make that case. Yeah, I think in terms of likelihood, I think personally, if he starts those two, I think those two will switch in Maresca's team. But I don't know. But purely because I can't remember which game it was. Was it Wolves? No. I can't remember the game. But there was a game where Fofana did a lot of storming up that wing on that side. So I was like, even if at the time he wasn't playing right back.
It was Palace.
Yeah, exactly.
Crossing balls in as well.
It was Palace. So obviously that was before the Gusto injury in that game, because Gusto inverted into midfield in that game. And then we have it obviously, like I just had on screen, a kind of a back three, and we let Fofana do the running. So I'm like, you're literally already asking Fofana to do a right back job even when he plays centre back. So surely just let him play right back and not Disasi. But I'm absolutely fine with you boys picking this. No problem at all. So now my question to you guys is it just Enzo and Caicedo, Charlie?
Yeah, I think so, mate. I think so.
Fair dues. Dums, I reckon you agree as well, right?
Yeah.
Fair dues. So who are we picking in the front four then? Again, this will, in the game, become like this. Presumably, in this case, Cucurella will then invert if Disasi plays right back, and there will be a bit of those.
I think three of them pick themselves, mate. We know Jackson's going to play. We know Madueke's playing, and we know Palmer's playing. So the only debate is who plays.
Are you that sure that Palmer will play with the muscle fatigue situation? Are you that sure?
I'm almost certain, yeah.
Okay, fair dues. So that kind of puts Palmer here, or do you? Oh yeah, you said Madueke as well.
And then left-hand side, it could be Neto, could be Felix. Sancho, I'd be surprised if Sancho went straight into the starting 11.
I feel like it could be Sancho. You know why? Because Sancho was on international duty.
Yeah. No,
Sancho was here the whole time. Well, Neto played both games. Now, Felix didn't, but no one wants Felix on the wing. So let's please not do that. So it's for me, it's between Neto and Sancho. I'd like to see a try with Sancho. I can't even lie. Like Neto was out playing international duty. Bring him on. Who would you pick, mate? Or who do you think gets picked? I would say
I think Neto gets picked.
Yeah. First. I mean, I hear it. I've seen a few people suggest that they think Maresca will pick Sancho. I'm not sure. I'm truly not sure. I think Neto's probably more likely.
I wouldn't mind it, but I'd be surprised if he was chucked straight in.
Yeah, no fair. I mean, Dams, do you first of all agree with the 3 guaranteed one that Charlie calls guaranteed? Like I say, Cole Palmer missed obviously or pulled out of international duty with England due to muscle fatigue, but has been in training since. Do you give him a rest? I'd give him a rest. And can we also talk about, none of us have mentioned Nkunku, who last season, everyone, including the club and us, all helped. He's going to be our saviour once he's finally back fit. And now we're not even playing him when he is fit.
No, he's not done anything.
No,
I don't think he's done anything to warrant being picked. Yeah. But what I mean is, in his Premier League performances haven't warranted him being in the team. I like him. I think he's a great player.
Has Neto?
But on the left-hand side, more so.
I think it's more, yeah.
Well, yeah, no, I agree. But I think Neto, his best game Neto had when he was playing on the right, not on the left.
Yeah, but yeah, I mean, look, Nkunku, I think is a great player and will contribute. But ultimately, right now, I don't think any of us can say that he should be in the starting lineup because based on his Premier League form, he's not done enough.
I agree.
No.
Dams, who would be your, well, obviously including Enzo, but the other 3 plus Jackson?
Yeah, it speaks for itself. I think Palmer, Madueke and Jackson, I think are guaranteed to play. I'd say. I'm still not sure on Palmer. I don't know. I do hope obviously he plays because Palmer, but whether we don't have a midweek game next week actually. So yeah, I do think he'll start. To be honest with you, I think if we had a midweek game next week, I think he would have started that one instead. Maybe try and get his minutes.
If it was a cup game, because Palmer is also not in the Conference League squad.
Oh yeah, he's not. Yeah, shit. Yeah. So yeah, I do think it'll be Palmer. Palmer. I've got a feeling Sancho will start. I've got a feeling he'll start over Neto.
I think so.
I do think he'll start.
H. just put it in the chat. Neto was so invisible on the left against Palace that he got subbed off for Mudryk. How bad do you have to be to get subbed off for Mudryk? We haven't even mentioned Mudryk, because Mudryk has started a lot under Maresca these last few weeks. Like, he started a lot of games. He started in the Conference League every time. He started more games recently than I thought he would.
He started three of the 5 games in all comps, both Conference League games and the Wolves game.
There you go. That's it. There you go. See, Charlie's got the facts. So yeah, if Dams picks Sancho, with the outvoting situation, I have a small feeling about Sancho, but it's more like 50-50%, I think Sancho, 45%, I think Neto. It's very I'm unsure, if that makes sense. I'm unsure. Just to clarify, because we just finished the team, Nicolas Jackson has signed a new contract with Chelsea. So that's fun, I guess. Mostly, this is, if we're being honest, this is about him signing, getting a pay rise, right? It's obviously Joy's extended a contract by 2 years, but does it make a difference whether he is contract until 31 or 33? No, we're going to force him out by 28, 29 anyway. Trust me, Jackson will suffer the Ben Chilwell treatment of all of a sudden he's not allowed to train with the squad anymore unless he scores 50 goals every year. So it doesn't make a difference. But I'm glad that he's getting a pay rise, because I think he deserved that. That's what I will say. So shout out to you, Nicolas Jackson. Quickly, Dums, Charlie, thoughts? Nicolas Jackson warrant that pay rise?
Yeah, I think so. I have an issue with the contract extension. Pay rise done well in the first season. Doesn't change anything. 2033. None of these guys are going to be here till then anyway. So yeah, exactly. No problems.
I'm happy with Jackson, to be fair. I think he gets a lot of unworthy criticism at times by a lot of people, which I don't think is fair, to be honest with you. I think given the first season he had last season, I do think that pay rise is warranted. And I think even sparks of this season, what we've seen of him, obviously he can be frustrating. Obviously, a lot of people blaming him for not scoring those chances against Palace, but you're going to get that as a striker. But yeah, I'm happy with what I've seen of Jackson so far. And yeah, let's just see how he gets on the rest of the season.
Absolutely. There's only really a couple of smaller bits that I'd like to discuss with Dams, but Charlie does need to head off, so we'll say goodbye to Charlie. Charlie, thank you very, very much for joining us today. Everybody, make sure you subscribe to Charlie, Blue Brother CFC. The link is down in the description. Otherwise, type it into the search bar on YouTube. You'll find it. Subscribe to it. Link to Charlie's Twitter is also down in the description, so please do follow him and check out all of Charlie's good stuff. Charlie, thank you as always. And are you going to Bournemouth tomorrow?
Yeah, I'll be there. Yeah.
Well, then have fun and please come back with 3 points, because
I'll do my best. I'll do my best. I've never seen us lose this. Our third trip. We've had a draw. We've had a win and a draw. So maybe it's going to be a loss to complete the set, isn't it? Hopefully.
Well, first of all, don't jinx it. Second of all, the draw is basically losing anyway.
No, nice one, boys. Cheers. Appreciate it as always. Catch up soon. Nice one.
See you soon, bro.
Dams, a couple of things that I would like to talk about, because one of them has riled me up a little bit, and the other one is just kind of interesting. Well, two more actually. One, Cole Palmer won Goal of the Month. I haven't obviously seen every goal. I'm not sure all the goals that were nominated. It was a good goal. I didn't quite think it deserved Goal of the Month, but maybe there just wasn't any better goals, I guess. So, yeah, well done for him. I'm not even, there's not much to say, is there, Dubs? But good goal, though, I guess, right?
It's quality, yeah, bro. Just even when I went in, we were all just like, what the fuck's Cole Palmer done, man? Like, insane, yeah. I don't think there was many, to be fair, from the month of August. I don't remember any screamers. I think maybe Wolves scored a good goal as well. I don't think it's
the Haaland second goal against West Ham was pretty good.
Yeah, there's a few. There's probably one that we're probably not thinking about.
Yeah, I didn't see all the nominated goals, so I couldn't tell you, mate.
But Palmer at least won that. So
yeah, there you go. It's better than nothing. It's better than nothing. After he won Young Player of the Year, but somehow didn't make Team of the Season, which is baffling. I need to talk about this. So David Fofana has now been loaned out to Göztepe SK in Turkey, a newly promoted team. I didn't know they were newly promoted. They were certainly already in the Turkish Super League a couple of years ago. They must have got relegated for some reason and now are back. This whole loan includes a buy option for £20 million, which will obviously never be triggered. This is baffling because a day before this, he was on the verge of joining AEK Athens on loan, but that then all of a sudden fell apart. And I just cannot believe that this is happening. We're just destroying a player's career for minimal profit. It's just ridiculous. We signed him, then played him a little bit. He looked okay, not great, but okay. Then we loan him to Union Berlin, a Champions League club at the time, mind you. He doesn't do great there, I got to say. He doesn't do great, but still, he scored away at Napoli in the Champions League, so not completely awful. Then we terminate that loan and send him on loan to Burnley, a Premier League team at the time, obviously now Championship, but second half of last season in the Premier League. He starts 10 games. In those 10 games, scores 4 goals, gets an assists. And one of those goals was an absolute worldie against West Ham away, by the way. A place where we never win. And now Chelsea failed to sign a striker this summer, even though we reported to have tried to sign a striker all summer long. And now, instead of keeping Fofana as a backup striker, we decided, no, let's actually keep Marc Guiu, who has zero credibility. All we've seen from him in terms of trying to score a goal is missing an open goal. I like him, but he clearly doesn't know how to score goals very well. So, and also, wouldn't Guiu have been way easier to loan out to a better club? And then you could have just kept Fofana as the backup striker. That would have probably given him a better reputation and would have made it much easier either to find a good loan in January or next year, or a good sale for much more money. It blows my mind how we treat these players like they're items and like they're objects and not humans. Like, you sign this guy, promise him the world when we sign him from Molde in Norway. Promise him the fucking world. And what does he get? 3 games for us where he does okay. A good loan, which doesn't work out. Another loan where he proves he can score goals in the Prem. And now he's in Turkey for a promoted team. How?
Yes,
do you think this is as baffling as I do?
It is, honestly, because even those 3 games that you played for us, I actually didn't think he did too badly. I think the one that sticks to mind for me is I think Fulham at home, wasn't it? I think Enzo's debut. I think he did start up front that game for us. Yeah, I think even I remember the Southampton games. Remember we lost was it 1-0 under Potter? I think towards the end of Potter's reign. But Fofana started that game. I thought he did well. Got hooked off at half time, didn't he, as well? So yeah, and I thought he did all right. And it's just weird that obviously he's had that Union Berlin, you said, and not worked out. Came back, gone to Burnley. He's done a decent return. 5 GA in 10 is pretty good, I think. And I think we're reading from Ritz's tweet now. I do think this is an indication that we're going to go again in January for a striker. And if that fucks up like it did last time, then we recall him. But then you obviously have Jackson, you have Guiu, you have Fofana, you have 3 strikers at the club. But then that's all dependent on our progression in Europe, FA Cup, Carabao Cup. We obviously got the Club World Cup in America next year as well, which we're taking part in. So we might actually do need all 3. So I think this is a sign for me that I think this is an inside, like a secret message that we're going to go back in January for obviously not Osimhen, but I do think we'll go for striker.
It might be Osimhen.
It could be, yeah. I mean, it could be, but yeah, it's a shame how it's ended for Fofana, because, like you said, he's been promised X, Y, and Z and stuff, and he's been shipped out to Turkey basically. Let's just see how he does. But yeah, we have Jackson and Guiu, but yeah, he's realistically not going to get that many minutes with them 2 there as well. So
yeah. I mean, obviously, you've got Nkunku who can play striker. You've got Felix who can play striker. We didn't put Nkunku in our team. We didn't put Felix in our team.
Exactly, yeah.
Make of that what you will. So maybe that is it. H. Nakwa says, could it have to do anything with this character? He had issue with management at Berlin, if I'm not mistaken, because ability-wise, I can't see how he's worse than you currently. I'm not sure if you're purposely misspelling you or if you forgot to spell it right. I don't know. Maybe. I think at Union Berlin, I think he was late or did something bad early. But actually, from what I remember, the manager actually said that Dacho actually accepted that he did wrong in that case and actually very much so behaved perfectly after that, as far as I know, before the loan got in the end terminated because he didn't get minutes anymore. I think they had a managerial change in the season, which probably made that happen. But yeah, there you go. Poor Dacho Fofana. I truly hope that he does well at Gastepi and that he can hopefully get his career back on track. I'm making a bold prediction now, Dams. In 5 years, Fofana plays for Norwich and scores a hat-trick against Chelsea.
If Norwich are back up, we'll see. If we're down,
he will do it. He will do it. He will be the new Timo Pukki for Norwich, who gets them promoted, and then they go straight back up.
Well, are we getting relegated then? Yeah.
Say again.
Are we getting relegated then, or Norwich coming up?
No. Norwich coming up. Hey, let me be a bit optimistic, bro. But the last little topic I quickly would like to touch on, a lot of people might not be aware, our opponents tomorrow are, of course, Bournemouth. Good old Kepa Arrizabalaga is on loan at Bournemouth. Now, obviously, the Premier League loan rules do not allow Kepa to play, which also should be a big advantage. Well, obviously, the cynics within the fan base will say it would be better if Kepa played against us because then we'd have an easier job.
Yeah, I agree with that.
But obviously, in theory, it's Bournemouth's second choice goalkeeper that will play now because they wouldn't have signed Kepa if they had someone else that was good, right? Would they? So, yeah, that is that. Just to mention it, Kepa obviously plays for Bournemouth now, but not allowed to play against us. And what was interesting, though, I'm going to bring it up through Chelsea Dodgers. The Athletic said today that there's actually a £5 million release clause in that loan deal that becomes active if other conditions in the deal are fulfilled. I presume number of games maybe or whatever else. So £5 million, bloody hell! Like the fall off is crazy. Like I still think he's better than Sanchez. I still firmly believe that, and I still don't really understand why. Like the loan to Real Madrid, like it couldn't have backfired more than it has. It literally couldn't have backfired more because if we sent him out to a team where he would have played, there would have been a significantly bigger chance of him getting bought this summer. But instead, we loaned him to Madrid, who needed him because of Courtois' injury. But then they realized, actually, Lunin is better. So then halfway through, they dropped him for Lunin, who also nobody wants. So obviously that just put Kepa stocks all the way in the bin. And now here we are. But yeah, is there much to add from you, Dams? You were like, you're not sure, but I just really don't rate Rob Sanchez, bro. So it's mostly that. And I still believe if Maresca was given the chance to work with Kepa, I still firmly believe Maresca would have picked Kepa as his first choice, purely because he's also by far the best with his feet from our option. Well, Jorgensen, we don't know. We've not seen enough to really judge that. But in terms of Sanchez, it certainly doesn't pass the ball to the opponent once a game like Sanchez does. Sanchez doesn't save anything anyway. So what difference does it make? But yeah, where do you stand on it? It's a £5 million release clause, bro.
That's insane, man. Like
70 mil we paid for him at the time, man. Crazy
that's what it says. 70 mil for him at the time. Like I think at the time as well, us fans were sort of like, it's a bit dodgy this signing. To be honest with you, we've obviously when Courtois left us, we did have to spend that money on the goalkeeper. Where we could have got Alisson for that money. We decided to go for Kepa instead because we didn't want to pay for Alisson for that money. But then, it's just a mess. But at least we'll get 5 million. I mean, it's better than nothing, is it? That's really positive, really, isn't it? It's 5 million more towards another transfer for us. That's about it.
If it does even happen, chat. I mean,
obviously there's conditions as well.
When did we sign Kepa? 2019, right?
No, it was 2018.
2018.
Yeah.
2018.
As soon as
So that means, and at the time he was signed on a 5-year contract, right? So that means right now his book of value is already zero, because obviously the whole amortization across the contract length. So I don't think he signed more than a 5-year contract at the time. Maybe it was 6 actually, because I feel like maybe that was surprisingly long at the time already. I can't remember. Maybe it was actually 6 or 7 for him too. So, anyways, that may make it make sense, right? If he has 5 million left on his books next year, and that's why we added that as the release clause, so we don't at least have money left on the books. Yeah, that's the only thing I can imagine. That's the only thing I can imagine. But with that, bro, I think we're about to round it out, and I want to finish it off with Dams. Give me a score prediction. What do you reckon? You confident?
You have to be against Bournemouth, man. Look at how we've had a mix.
Bournemouth haven't lost the game yet, by the way.
Well, have they not?
No.
Wow. Okay. When you deep it like that, it's mad. But I do think there's a lot of positives to take from the season so far. Like I do somewhat like what I'm seeing. Obviously, there's still massive room for improvement. Don't get me wrong, but I do like bits that we're seeing at the moment. It will take time for these players to gel, for Maresca to get his ideas instilled into the team. I expect us to beat anyone, to be honest with you, bro. Even Man City at the start of the season, they obviously didn't have Rodri, they didn't have a few other players, and I always back us to beat anyone, to be honest with you, because we know on our day, like against Wolves, for example, we slapped 6 against them, and then we dropped points the week after against Palace. So you don't know what Chelsea's going to turn up, but I'd go 3-1 Chelsea. I do think we'll concede. I still think we're leaking goals for whatever reason. Whether that's the midfield, the defense, the goalkeeper as well, obviously it needs to be mentioned as well. They don't really fill me with 100% confidence yet. But well, obviously the goal scoring's there. We've seen the players last season. We've seen from this season we scored 6 against Wolves. Like that doesn't happen a lot. Even Man City don't really do that often against Wolves. No. So yeah, I'd go 3-1 Chelsea, and this could be this turn. This international break could be a blessing for us, or could be a horror show. You never know. We'll see.
Absolutely, and I mean, like Charlie said earlier when we were speaking about the ownership troubles, losing can make the ownership trouble bigger as well, and winning can calm that stuff down too. I was kind of feeling like 3-1 as well. It seems to be a fair few 3-1s. Well, I say a fair few. JP said 3-1 as well. Ashako says 2-2 heart attack draw. Bloody hope not. Now, my truthful prediction is probably somewhere between a 3-1 and a 2-1. I do think we'll win. Even if Bournemouth, well, they by the way, they have lost in the League Cup against West Ham, but in the league, they've got a draw against Forest, a draw against Newcastle, and then they beat Everton in that obviously crazy game where Everton were 2-0 up until the 87th minute and then bottled it. So those were Bournemouth's 3 games so far. I'm a try to manifest a clean sheet. So I'm a predict 2-0. Because by God, do we need to start to learn how to fucking defend, man. Like we conceded a set-piece goal in 2 of the 3 games in the league so far as well. We need to stop. We need to stop. And that pissed me off as well about Maresca in the press conference today. He was asked about set-pieces. And he was like, well, we also scored from set-pieces, though. You will always concede from set-pieces, score from set-pieces, normal. I'm like, no. Can you please have the expectations to become better, my man? Because, like, fucking hell, even Ralf Rangnick, for Austria manager, was like, you can concede 1 set-piece goal. But conceding 2, you're in trouble. And that means the managers ain't doing a good enough job. And Rangnick said that by himself. And I've got Maresca said, it's fine. We concede set-piece goal. I'm like,
that's a bit worrying. I can't lie.
We hired the fucking set-piece specialist specifically from Brentford this summer, mind you. So can we maybe start actually being half decent at set-pieces? Just a suggestion, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. But Bournemouth are a decent team as well. They've got a good manager. That Semenyo is a good player as well for them. And I think he'll cause a lot of problems.
That's the only problem, right? That striker situation. Obviously, they lost Solanke, Now their new striker is Evan Nilsson.
Yeah.
He's
scored against Arsenal.
So far, hasn't done anything.
Great, but
no. So it should make that easier, but you never know with us. You never know with us. It's probably more likely one of their centre backs that scores anyway than it is one of their attackers in terms of like set pieces, like I say. So you leave it at a 3-1. I must say 2-0. Like I say, trying to manifest that that clean sheet. But all that matters to me is just win. Whether it's 1-0, 2-1, 3-1, 2-0, I don't care. For the love of God, win. I need us to win. So ladies and gentlemen, I think it's about time we wrap this one up. If you're still here, I very much appreciate you. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and that like button if you haven't done that just yet. Do check out Dom's on Twitter. Link is down in the description. And also you can see his ad on the screen. Obviously, like I said earlier already, subscribe to Charlie on YouTube. Check him out on Twitter. And of course, something I do need to mention, please do check out mine and Pice's podcast, Chelsea Unfiltered. Link is down in the description to both Spotify and Apple Podcasts. We're on both of those platforms. So please do check them out on whichever platform you choose to listen to podcasts too. But it's very good. We have 3 episodes.
It's great episodes, by the way, guys. Like definitely tune in. It is really good. Like especially if you're traveling around and stuff or at work, if you just want to listen to some insightful stuff on Chelsea, it is really good. Like they've both done really well for it. So
appreciate you, bro. Appreciate it. And like Dom said, for listening on the side, whether you're in the car, whether you're in the gym, whatever, and you don't have time to like check Twitter or read 3,000 page long articles by The Athletic, and also YouTube. Unless you have YouTube Premium, you can't close it and listen to it on the side. So Spotify is a bit easier.
Useful for me, bro. Trust me. You know me, man. You know how much I struggle to keep up, man.
Exactly that. If you want to check that out, please do. Like I say, links are down in the description. But ladies and gentlemen, we're going to leave it at that. Thank you very, very much for watching. Up the Chelsea, upwards and onwards. And we will see you next time.